think it is for Dr. Govind. Which patient, when there is a suspicion of HFpEF patient, which test one should go for? Either we should go for BNP or you go for echocardiography. So that was the question which was put in the chat box.
Okay. So in the algorithm, BNP comes first in the diagnostic algorithm as far as the AC is concerned, and next is the echo. So it has to be combined. So BNP can be sometimes not very reliable. It can be less, it can be more in AF, it can be less in obese patients. So there are some variables. So it should not be entirely rely on BNP itself. So it has to be combined. But especially when the BNP, if it is less, it has got a good negative predictive value. But if it is high, it has to be correlated with echo. So echo and BNP has to be connected together. So echo is always a mandatory thing when the clinical suspicion is quite high.
Dr. Satish, if suppose BNP at the base level it is negative, do you still feel that we should go for echocardiography?
Yes, it has to be done. Echo, as I said, like a BNP has its own issues. It can have a lot of variations, especially in obese patients. There are a lot of mechanisms proposed for that, where the BNP is because of the stretch receptors. If the patient is hypertrophic, again, the BNP is not going to be that much. Yes. And in obese patients, BNP is not going to be that much. So just relying on BNP is not good enough. It is one more part of the diagnostic algorithm, but echo is a must. So it is very important to establish these various parameters, and based on these parameters, the diagnosis of HFpEF.
Dr. Mahapatra, you must agree that out of all these modalities of that we test for the diastolic function, echo is the cheapest, easily available, it can be repetitive, and basing on that basic ejection fraction, we proceed for other things. As Satish exactly highlighted, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 echocardiography, from which and finally going for a stress echo, which becomes cheaper compared to the other modalities that is available. As Christopher has shown very nicely about the ejection fraction also can be very nicely and accurately studied by the MRI and other things. But if I ask him which one you will choose first to diagnose a diastolic heart failure, which one will choose?
Always be echo.
Basket?
It will always be echo.
So provided the echo is being handled by a very experienced person, the patient doesn't have COPD or any other hyperinflated lung fields, and there is also difficulty in identifying where exactly the papillary vessel insertion is and identify the LV cavity. So echo is there. It is provided the person who handles, the man behind the machine is more important. Whereas in all other modalities, it is more objective. There is no contact between the patient and the equipment. That has to be kept in mind.
That is always there.
Yes.
But Prabhu, I must agree that is cheap, and we train people in this country. They should be experts when they do the echo.
Another question from the chat box, Dr. Aziz Khan. In case of atrial fibrillation or IF, only E wave is seen. How to diagnose DHF? So, what's your comment, panel?
But Satish.
Yeah, here you have to look at the left atrial volume. So as I mentioned earlier on, so the left atrial volume, if it is more than 40 ml, so that means even if the diastolic dysfunction grading is not possible, at least the volume tells you that there is a higher likelihood, higher probability that there is some amount of raised LV filling pressure. The objective is to find out whether there is raised LV filling pressure. So one can look at the LV volume instead of the E prime.
Okay.
I can say you that the LV volume is the HbA1c like is in diabetes. In any dysfunction of the LV, LV always reflects its a condition that is like the glycosylated hemoglobin. Yeah. So one has to always alert in LV volume.
Absolutely.
LA function.
So if the AF is there, the LA volume is increased, the TR is high, a non-dilated LV, and there is a clinical feature of presentation of heart failure. So I think that goes in favor that this is.
If there is no questions, we are running short of by 45 minutes.
May I ask one question?
Yes, please.
I gathered from the last talk, and I'm sure the previous ones were also on the same footing, that diastolic heart and HFpEF are not synonymous. I thought Dr. Mishra sir is present. He's such a senior cardiologist and a teacher. This point would have been raised. We need to very properly understand that diastolic heart failure is not synonymous with heart failure with preserved ejection fraction.
Sandeep, it has already been explained by Dr. Prabhu with excellent slide.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I joined late.
Okay, no problem. Dr. Prabhu, please.
Dr. Prabhu, you would like to give comment anything about
Diastolic heart failure?
Not synonymous to HEPREP.
No, sir. I think we will leave to Dr. Satish and Dr. Mishra. They are more experienced, sir.
Satish, you will like to answer that?
Yeah, I just would like to add that diastolic heart failure was in the earlier one, the Framingham study, the older the publications were focusing on diastolic heart failure as a separate entity. So now, when you look at the heart failure itself, is a continuum of the heart failure, the spectrum. So the preserved ejection fraction comes somewhere in the middle. And the terminology of use of diastolic heart failure is not really used anymore. So it is more of preserved ejection fraction that is suggested. So that is where the present guidelines are. So I would prefer to use the term heart failure with preserved ejection fraction rather than the diastolic heart failure.
Yes, Sandeep, for the timing, we have clear-cut
Just to add,
guidelines.
we could have diastolic heart failure.
For a pathological
heart failure
diagnosis,
as well.
diastolic heart failure.
I think Sandeep, the nomenclature has been changed to
Yes.
HEPREP or HEPREP. So
Yes.
that is your point to do. Anyway, so thank you so much. We are running short of idea. Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you.